And yeah, we have a sort of a conversation that we wanted to have about work, mindfulness, and um, reconnection. And um, I think we met through the research,
Hmm.
mindfulness
Mindful
research
researchers.
network. And yeah, maybe you can just introduce a little bit yourself if you know, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. So, let's see. I got to know Wolfgang at Mindful Researchers through IGDOR, which is this kind of institute that allows affiliating for independent researchers to have a bit of a community, and they do some nice work promoting open science and things like that. But yeah, myself, basically, I got my PhD in theoretical physics back in 2019 from MIT. So I was kind of in the thick of the academia world. Um, and that was very exciting. There's, a lot of work that went into getting to that point, and it felt like kind of culmination of a lot of my kind of dreams and aspirations. And I got a paper published in Science. And at the same time, it was a very lonely world for me and very somehow disconnected. And so reconnection is something that we wanted to talk about today. So I'm kind of bringing that up. So at some point after 3 years uh, at in my PhD, I took a year off to just academic leave to travel, just to get out and find some more aliveness, I guess, in the world, and found the spiritual path. Somehow had my first awakening to just the realization that happiness is possible. That I was kind of realized I was raised with this like attitude. This quote from Star Wars, I think, is that um, life is suffering, and anyone who tries to tell you otherwise is trying to sell you something. Uh, and that's sort of, I kind of assumed that that was the case, and that that's how everyone lived. That it's always a battle, and what isn't the like life is dukkha, suffering. So somehow just realizing that it doesn't have to be that way was a big insight for me. Just realizing that like, wow, happiness is actually a state that's achievable. And so after having experienced it, I think put all my resources and priorities into finding ways to be with that and to find it and to just understand how is it possible? Why is it possible? And why don't we always do that? And yeah, basically since then I've been kind of moving further away from academia, but still, that's in some way my background and my home and where I come from. And so there's still this curiosity of, is it possible to make academia a happy place? Is it possible to find that same joy, empowerment, feeling fully human somehow within an academic setting while doing research and more broadly while doing technical work rather than, just running away to a cave or to an eco village and leaving the world behind, so to speak. So, yeah. So I think that's roughly where I'm at right now. I'm running some retreats in a few weeks on how to turn technical work into meditation, how to turn research into meditation. So we're doing these like 1 week uh, in-person containers in the south of France here. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. I feel like there's a lot of richness in that work. There's a lot of potential and opportunity. And also, I don't see it done very much. There's often this polarity of either I'm in the world and I'm doing like high paying or high status technical job, or I leave that world and I become a meditator, an eco village or something. But somehow the really bringing those two together, we're getting them so much.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, I think it's fascinating, what you're sharing about kind of this sort of, yeah, being in some place, MIT doctorate, kind of, then kind of feeling that there's something missing, or that it's empty somehow.
Mhm.
And I think like there's a lot of people that are discovering it from different angles. And, right now I'm kind of on the opposite road, kind of looking into a PhD after 15 years of kind of being in the
Mhm.
world and being in the creative
Mhm.
practice and mindfulness. So, but I think there's also like something powerful about what you're sharing about the understanding that, there's a bridge that, in a way
Mhm.
we can have the cake and eat it at the same time.
Mhm.
Although they say that you can't, but maybe it's just a question of balance somehow, like, I'll take a little piece of cake and now I'm gonna kind of observe it for a little bit and you know
Mhm.
so um and I think like I now remember that I called it a dream cafe, and also because I'm very curious with kind of dreams of people, and I realized a little bit back that my dream or my purpose is to help 1 million dreams um, for regenerative world come about. And yeah, when we met, you were talking about this dream, about this monastery, about this retreats that you're doing now, but in a way, something kind of that goes beyond it. So, and I found it fascinating. I found it that there's a lot of energy in it. Um, And I just been the other day, I visited a place in Volterra in Tuscany, and there was also a space that was created and also looking for initiatives. So something to think about in terms of, but also the challenges of dreams, like dreams, big dreams have big challenges, I would say. Um, and yeah, if you feel inspired to share a little bit about this dream, and also the challenges that you're feeling or perceiving, and what's on the other side of this dream.
Yeah, that always brings me back to this, like, okay, well, the ultimate dream is to not look for anything external, right? So there's something of this, like, okay, I was dreaming of what the world could be, but there's also the dreaming of what I could be and loving the world as it is, right? And accepting it. And so that's where kind of my relationship to dreaming is often, like, I feel kind of confused about this, right? There's transforming the outside world and transforming the inside world, and there's some interplay of both in order to achieve, right? So it's ultimately like the dream is some inner state, achieving some inner bliss, enlightenment. Um, but yeah, in the outside world, I guess one way that we phrased it was like create a research monastery, so that we could have this like model of a Buddhist monastery, but where the meditation practice is research. And and right, like one way to imagine it is just like, high in the Himalayas, have this like beautiful monastery where you really like retreat and have this kind of silent, dedicated, uh, romanticized perhaps practice of doing, uh, really deeply contemplating some nature of reality, nature of ourselves, and publishing papers based on those contemplations, right? And actually using math and using some, so fully doing research, but as a practice. Um, but that's, that's kind of one vision. I guess another aspect of it is to really make spirituality a branch of academia alongside math and physics, and right, where spirituality could be fully researched as a kind of rigorous, with the same rigor and the same standards and the same sort of peer review process as other fields. But but yeah, then the kind of the challenges of how to create that or how to get there. Uh, I don't know. There's a culture aspect of like the assumption that academia operates under. A friend of mine is saying that researchers hate themselves, and that's like he was kind of saying it as a given and as an inevitability. That that's how the world should be, is that researchers should hate themselves because they're always pressing against the limits of human capacity, of intellect, of things, right? And so they always feel kind of frustrated with not being smarter, right? And that kind of makes sense, but the conceptual leap to from there, you somehow need to hate yourself, like that I feel is unwarranted. And but I think just to some extent that reflects, like another friend of mine was saying, that a good scientist is depressed 95% of the time, because that's what drives you to really keep trying to solve this problem, right? And most of the time you're not solving it, and so there's this like self-sacrifice of having a miserable life for those few moments of revelation and realization, and right. And I feel like it kind of reflects some romanticize, like we romanticize suffering. We think that somehow being in pain and suffering is beautiful, and it's and we have a lot of, right, like unrequited love poems and all of this, like there's literature and art around. So in some sense we are fascinated with suffering, and science kind of brings that up as well, like Faust or but so there is a culture shift of, even just like for me, that revelation was just like, oh, happiness is possible. Like that's a way you can actually be in the world, right? And I feel like just showing people that experience, right? And then besides the culture shift, there is like the practical aspects of game, right? But how do we actually create it? How do we turn the process of research, where you are running up against limits of human intellect, into this joyful, pleasurable meditation that's kind of tantric, Buddhist, or whatever. Um, and and I feel like that's a kind of, in some sense, an easier problem than the culture shift one. But yeah.
Man, yeah, it's fascinating what you're bringing out about this romanticism and the suffering as a sort of a given, and
Hmm.
how this kind of idea kind of leaks into science. I speak as an artist, so an artist, we have all this weird
Hmm.
stuff about and
Struggling artist.
yeah, the
Yeah.
struggling artist archetype
Yeah.
thing, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and how do we sort of, in a way, when we do that, we actually we surrender to, I would say, to capitalism even before we're not even fighting it, in a way.
Hmm.
We're kind of giving up before even starting, and
Hmm.
somehow finding the joy, what I hear, or happiness. You're saying happiness, or I would also add
Hmm.
joy and playfulness as a life force, that we have a right, we have a capacity that has its own validity, that it has its own living force, and you can, it's saying that I can be so-called productive, intellectually productive, and I can be happy, and I can be, I can be
Hmm.
also seeking life and aliveness, and that somehow this system can also have its own
Hmm.
validity and force as a dream,
Hmm.
and I think there's like power in dreaming, especially when, and I agree, like we can get very, again, focused on what's, like by 2030, I will do that. And, we can get lost
Hmm.
into and then lose the flow somehow. But it's good to
Hmm.
have some kind of, the dream in itself has power. I had a conversation, quite spontaneous live Substack conversations. You can find it on the Imagine Action Substack. I'm running two Substack, my personal one and the
Hmm.
Imagine Action one, with Maoz
Hmm.
Inon, who is an Israeli activist and for peace, who lost his parents in both of his parents on 7th of October, and he has been a very strong voice for peace, and he's sharing a vision about peace between Israel and Palestine by 2030, so like in 5 years,
Hmm.
and he's, it doesn't, and he's speaking about how to realize dreams, um and again, it doesn't have to be 2030. You don't even need to put a
Hmm.
date, but what world do you see
Hmm.
emerging from this dream? How would you know that this happens?
Yeah, I'm curious how you see like dreams in general, right? Because this emphasis, right, and this like dream cafe idea and just supporting others, and like because right, I said in the beginning that I'm kind of conflicted about how I relate to dreams because it's like the external is the dream, the external or the internal, and by pursuing the external dream, do I kind of take responsibility off from managing my own emotions about loving the world as it is, or right? So yeah, but you seem to like really give this value and importance and validity to dreams and power. So I'm curious how you relate to that and what you see.
Yeah, I think my perspective to dreams, which also comes from dragon dreaming, which I learned,
Hmm.
which has a origins. One of its key origins is from Aboriginal people in Australia. So the dream, in that sense, is not really individual; it's collective, and it's
Hmm.
also a part of the nature. So, in let's say perspective, Aboriginal perspective, we the dream world is not less than the real world. And if anything, it's almost more than, we live the dream of our ancestors and the ancestors are living our dreams. So the dream world is always connected to our real world. And we are in a way, yeah, so
Hmm.
when I say dream, for me, it's not my dream. It's the earth is dreaming. It's the earth. It's the collective dream. It's the purpose. It's something that is calling me into the future, but is also inviting me to do my small part in the big picture. Oh, we have Pavel dropped, but I'll continue until he jumps back. I'll invite him back. Um, and yeah, I feel, and also welcoming Giovanni, Gianni, and Linda who are here with us. And so welcome. And I invited Pavel back. So let's see.
There
I
you
think,
go. Oh,
yeah, hi, Pavel.
okay. Yes.
This has this
Sorry. I don't
happened.
know. I switched to mobile network now.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it happens. I was sharing about that. I don't know where did you cut off, but I think the essence is
Hmm.
I feel for me when I speak about dream, it's something collective that works through me rather
Hmm.
than
Hmm.
something that I
Hmm.
have.
Hmm.
And
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah,
So
so
something like Jungian almost.
yeah, it's I don't know about
Collective
you.
subconscious.
Yeah, it's more the earth is dreaming us
Hmm.
into being.
Oh, okay.
And we're dreaming future collectively.
Hmm.
Um, and
Hmm.
our
Hmm.
dreams are an expression of something that wants to manifest.
Hmm.
So yeah, I feel dreams are like seeds of the future that are given to
Yeah.
specific people, and then they choose what to do with it or not. But it doesn't belong. The dream doesn't belong to you. It's something from your
Hmm.
field, from the collective field.
Okay, and so I guess that creates an attitude of acting on it as a bit of stewardship rather than I need to create this for myself. It's more like I am sort of a guardian of this collective thing, and I need to see how to best serve it, um, and also be attuned to what it is so that it can tell me like how it needs to be served. So, okay. Hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
and
it's
that
interesting.
and then and also all I feel all big dreams projects they need other people. You cannot realize anything
Yeah.
significant without other people. So it's also about seeking that attunement, that
Hmm.
cosmic family, that
Hmm.
that will somehow create this dream with you. Either support you or and sometimes your dream is already being granted by someone and
Hmm.
you're actually need to just add yourself to the dream that is already activated,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, and that would be better for you, and so it's gonna get win-win, right? So it's not a
Uh-huh.
competition of who is going to whatever, bring peace
Hmm.
first. Important thing is that there will be peace. Like
Yeah. it's a little interesting also in terms of is a dream something that we're trying to achieve to get to, or is it almost like the process of dreaming is the value of it, right? Is it about achieving peace, or is it about like the process of working on the dream, right? Because if you think of it as a dream, like a sleep dream, then as you say, Earth dreaming us into existence, then that's a little more of like, yeah, the value is the dreaming, not necessarily the getting there.
Yeah, and as humans, I feel um where it comes from. I think from Al Watts, but we have this strange thing that we're happier thinking about being happy in the future than in the current moment. So the sort of we are we're very much nostalgic or whatever, future oriented or past oriented. Like we have a strong
Mm-hmm.
feeling of emotions that come from actually thinking about the future or thinking about the past, while being in the
Mm-hmm.
present is something that, again, maybe mindfulness is the opposite. Is really trying to be in the moment. But that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily always come natural to us as humans. We're very connected with the future and with the past and with the story. So,
Mm-hmm.
so in that sense, the dreaming is also connecting with that possibility of something being different. And again, I usually my in my training, it's always associated with some kind of turning or towards thriving life. So there's like a connection of like a triple win, winning for me, for others, and
Mm-hmm.
the earth,
Mm-hmm.
which is maybe difficult. And that would different if you think about dreaming as something that, it's about me,
Mm-hmm.
it's also about me, right? So that's also
Mm-hmm.
important because the other side of that, I feel the other risk is to kind of do about others, becoming very altruistic, which is
Mm-hmm.
actually the most egoistic thing you can do is being, exclusively altruistic
Mm-hmm.
because you're actually you're kind of actually, and I know people that are like that, and they tend to kind of project their own happiness on others. And that becomes a sort of prison for the others as well.
Mm-hmm.
That, like they're not
Mm-hmm.
living their own life, they're living through the others, but it's a trap. It's
Yeah.
a dual trap, so
Mm-hmm.
it's yes, and it's not, either the dream is for me or for the collective or for the others, but it's for all of us, me
Mm-hmm.
included.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting, right? By putting pressure on others to to fulfill like my thing I'm doing, uh, that can trap them. Yeah, and we are in society of like having this like pressure of like I need to live for others. Put that, and that kind of also goes back to the concept of work, and especially in research, that's like self-sacrifice, right? That it's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna create a better world for everybody. I'm gonna, sacrifice my own life in order to understand the deep secrets of reality so that people can be fed and we can have more productive, I don't know, fertilizers or something, right? And then more food and then that just creates other problems that people are fed but still commit suicide. And yeah, and I don't know, I feel like very much a lot of these sorts of issues that we come right, like if I work out of this attitude that of self-sacrifice, if I'm kind of trying to build a better world by being miserable myself, then right, the fruits that will come out of that will always mirror the energy that I put into it, right? So if I'm miserable while creating it, then the fruits are going to just create more misery, right? So I love the kind of the example of Soviet Union, which is where I was born. So right? But there's something of like for the greater good, right? That like the original revolution was like, okay, we have this beautiful theory of utopia and we know how to build it, and now let's cut the heads off of all the ruling class and destroy all the things that were built and have a bloodbath in order to create this beautiful dream and this beautiful utopia, right? And then once they do, somehow, surprisingly to everybody, the utopia that they create seems to still be a bloodbath where people are getting murdered, right? And doesn't quite have that same, even though it's used to, write the book and kind of roughly follow the theory that they wanted, right? It's communism, it's Marxism, but somehow it's even worse than, or I don't know, worse, but has its own problems. So for me, that's, I guess, part of that dream of turning work into a pleasure and play, right? Really something like joyful and fun um, and and reconnecting in some way. And I feel like those two threads are kind of similar. Like, what is dreaming, right? And how can dream be for me, for everybody, and for the earth? And what is work, right? Is work related to dreaming, or is it just, for somehow self-sacrifice in order to feed my family or whatever, right? Um, yeah. And how can we shift that attitude? Can we shift that attitude?
Yeah. Um, yeah, and we have quite a few people listening in, and just inviting people to write in the chat if you want to share a question. We're kind of jamming. Sometimes I have a little echo of you. It's kind of interesting. Like you have like an interesting dreamy echoey sound sometimes, but I think it's okay.
Mhm.
But I hear you okay. But I feel like this question of um, how can we um, be, I would say, bring play and reconnection to work, but also I think the other side is 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 make our play and reconnection our work, So I feel I'm also coming in from the other side, and realizing that I need to give value, let's say that's valuable, that play and reconnection and all the things that I've been researching and doing, that's something that has value to the world, and it can be work. And
Mhm.
and that's a way of validating somehow. And then I think also collectively to how to create. I was thinking as I was kind of seeing that space, that it's the dream in Volterra, or this woman artist created. There was such an energy of play in this space. The moment we entered with our two daughters, they started dancing, and it
Mhm.
felt like this energy of
Mhm.
play. And right now
Mhm.
she's renting it sometimes to yoga and things like that. And I've not always fully engaged in all this yoga world. I've seen it from the outside most of the time, and it's how it's kind of becoming a whole thing and trending thing.
Mhm.
And I, as we were driving back, I thought like, wouldn't it be great if the next trend is? I even thought like, okay, I should
Mhm.
create play yoga. It's like
Mhm.
that's like I don't know anything about yoga, but I know about play. And I feel like I can
Yeah.
just do play yoga. But then thinking, you know, um, what about play as the next step in this
Mhm.
moving towards awareness? And maybe
Mhm.
bringing another name to our conversation, who is I would say a big name for this work, is Thich Nhat Hanh, that I had a chance
Mhm.
to work with someone who worked with him on the weekend.
Mhm.
And he spoke about the next Buddha not being not being an individual, but being a community.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this idea
Mhm.
again of uh, bringing all this spiritual work into work, or just
Mhm.
life, and sort of normalizing it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. There's lots of threads. I almost want to like lay out the different thoughts that I have coming up for this. Something around how difficult it is to maintain plane. Just noticing myself over the last few weeks. So, um, I can come into some project or some community or some task, right, with this attitude of like, okay, I'm not committed to outcome. I'm just playing. It's just for fun, for connection, whatever, right, right. And then how quickly and naturally we start to care and take it seriously, right? It's like, no, it actually matters what happened here, what I achieve, even though, right, like and how difficult it is to step out of that, even though like some bigger perspective, I'm like, this isn't something that, deeply matters to my livelihood or my big picture, or even ultimately, it's all just atoms bouncing around, nothing matters, right? But still, like, somehow, especially by being in a community and being surrounded of people who have this common goal and common thread, I start to care and believe that this task really matters, and I start taking it seriously, and I start to really worry about achieving it and getting it right and getting the result, which I can't control, but I now start to stress about getting the result, and that creates anxiety and it creates all this seriousness, and now I'm willing to sacrifice my joy and my satisfaction and even some values maybe in order to get that result, right? And that's where kind of all the problems start. But just noticing how quickly and how easily and how natural we fall into, right? From kind of what John Vervaeke talks about, there is this kind of like everything we do is a game, is a play, right? And a game is determined by the arena we're in, which sets the rules and the container of the game. And then within the arena, right, if I play, soccer, by certain rules, like, it all matters, right? If I take the arena away and I'm kicking the ball around, then right, somehow it immediately like loses meaning what's happening, right? And yet, right, we start to commit to the arena we are in very quickly and hold on to it very strongly, right? And it's even if I'm aware of it, it's still really hard to disconnect and disengage, and right, and somehow to just be in this, like, okay, can I just play, or can I go into an arena, play, have a purpose, have a goal to achieve, and take it seriously for a bit, but still remember that I'm just playing a game, right? Basically, can I play a game and not be attached to winning, right? And it's these nested games that we play, right? It's like a game within a game within a game, right? That if I play cards with somebody, it's the game of cards that's nested within a game of social interaction, trying to make friends, that's nested within, I don't know, maybe some professional networking, right? And so on. And it's like, if I all of a sudden find myself outside of all games, it feels terrifying, right? And it's like, oh, what's my purpose right now? Right now, I'm in this period, which is why I said it was kind of emotionally, right? That I kind of have this unexpected several weeks, 2 weeks of no particular plan or purpose, like kind of a break between things. And it's such a strange feeling to just be like, I don't have any particular goal or purpose to be achieving right now. Like, what should I do? Where should I go? Like, I came to this monastery very unexpectedly, just because I don't really know where to go. There's this monastery, why not, right? And here, it's like, should I don't know, volunteer in the kitchen? Should I? Yeah, that seems fun, but also like, I don't have this game guide my actions, and it's very tricky, and it really forces me to really live this play, right? But that's having clear goals defined by the arena I'm in, and be achieving them, right? And yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you jumped off for a bit.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a bit echoey. I think maybe if you just do one of the headphones, because I think they're lagging between them. That's why we have an echo. So you can.
Interesting. Let's try. I've never seen that happen, but
I
let's
don't
try.
know if it's better.
Is this better?
Uh,
This is one now. So
yes, this is better.
yeah, test.
Yeah, yeah,
Really? Oh, fascinating. Huh.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I,
I'll look into that. Um, uh-huh. So, yeah, it's kind of this question of, if I step out of all games, of all arenas, um, you know, how do I guide my actions? How do I decide what to do? Can I really play? And the other thread that I wanted to connect with this is money, which is often the arena that we spend our entire lives in, and how that shapes our goals, our actions, our directions, right? And to what extent that plays into connection or into disconnection.
yeah. Um, Yeah, I think that it's interesting the word you're using for arena. Yeah, and you know, um, and sometimes I watch too much Netflix. But anyway, I've started this other one. It's very dystopical. It's kind of
Mhm.
yeah. It's just one of those many series that we create as humans, which has a very dystopical future, which is completely full of war and violence, and in a much more exaggerated. In a way, there is a cathartic value of it. Like it's always like it's kind of like it could be much worse than we have now. Kind of thing. But there is an arena. So there was this fight, this arena of kind of gladiators, this fight dome thing, and I think this arena, the arena, the fighting arena, or the Colosseum, the kind of culture of
Mhm.
violence that I would say that currently, you know, well, recently the Trump talked about doing uh, the fighting boxing for the 250 year anniversary on the lawns of the
Mhm.
White House to do
Mhm.
the UFC something.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's coming back, like this arena.
Mhm.
But
Mhm. Yeah.
you know, uh, and when you talk about arena and you're talking about work and mindfulness and reconnection, what is this arena for you? And
Mhm.
what's the shape and of the arena, and and
Mhm.
and how do we interact with this arena?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. One, I guess, in terms of money, um, I find that there's this idea that work is something that is unpleasant that we must compensate somebody to do with money, right? So I feel like in some way, work and money are kind of two sides of the same coin, um, where the idea that, okay, there's a task that nobody wants to do, and therefore, in order for somebody to do that, we need to compensate them with something valuable, which therefore we like invent this token called money, which you can then trade for things you want, right? But that predicates on the concept that there's some task that nobody wants to do. And so that work is this like unpleasant thing. Um, and And right, the alternative that, as you're saying, like a dream that I can see possible is, okay, but instead, can we find a way to make every task pleasurable? So that, like what is it, Tom Sawyer, right? The fence painting, I think. Do you know that's a thing that's known in this culture?
A fence painting, yes. Is it from Tom Sawyer from the book?
Yeah, yeah, I think. Anyway, that's parents gave him a task to paint a fence, uh, and all of his friends were going to the lake, and he was like, but fence painting is the best task there is. Look at how much pleasure I'm getting from it, and it's so much fun. And then all his friends slowly started being dissuaded from going to the lake, and were like, oh, can I also paint some fence? And he's like, you might have to pay me because I'm enjoying this so much. And so they all paid him in order to paint his fence. um, and right, it's almost just that like every task can be reframed through creativity, through narrative, through as something pleasant. And then, we don't have to compensate somebody to do an unpleasant thing, but it can just be pleasant things to do. Right. And that's like a necessary way forward towards a gift economy, if that's ever to happen in some way. Right. Um, and I think that's one way to like reshape the arena that creates the concept of work. Right. Um, and mindfulness is, I guess, one of the tools that can do this reframing potentially. Right? Because it's like, okay, if I can view washing the dishes as this meditation where I can really enjoy the sensation of water on my fingers and do it slowly, right? Um, then like there is this kind of transformation that's possible, right? And now, of course, we're talking about like very big dream level of, okay, society transformation, gift economy, changing the notion of money and what that means, changing the notion of work and what that means, right? And of course, being kind of more step by step. Um, it might make more sense to focus on more specific things. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can. Well, we have people listening, and if you have a specific question, it's just something you want, you can share in the chat. Um, that maybe we can also start to kind of work towards kind of what are we taking from this conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm fascinated. Like one thing that I'm taking definitely is um like the story you just said. Like how do we sort of shift the narrative through
Mm-hmm.
kind of um like becoming a Tom Sawyer in this story
Mm-hmm.
where we can take something that and yeah, like in a way, Tom Sawyer, I don't remember the context, but I imagine that he wasn't thinking about changing the culture of work. He was just thinking of how to kind of actually go to the lake more faster.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
Mm-hmm.
so it and that's fine, like we don't need to be kind of saving the world for saving the world, or
Mm-hmm.
kind of need to find our small ways of kind of navigating the challenges that are both collective and personal, and do it
Mm-hmm.
in a way that, that is gradual, that is playful, that is creating, I would say, so here's something about mindfulness that I feel it's really about, for me, it's about the capacity to be in the present moment, but also about self-reflecting. So my capacity to recognize my own thinking, and that's a skill that I can acquire by practice, and we can acquire by practice, and by that we can also become more aware. Maybe we'll see things differently. We're more aware of both of where we are and what's the obstacles into being in rain flow somehow with life,
Mm-hmm.
with our own capacity, inner capacity for joy that in many
Mm-hmm.
ways has been kind of obstructed because of the arena, I would say, or the larger scale game that entered
Yeah.
our lives.
Yeah, because we commit so much to the game we're playing that we forget that we're playing a game, and we somehow get stuck in it. Right? It's like getting trapped in a virtual reality world or something, right? And then it all of a sudden becomes real and becomes serious rather than just a game. Yeah, but it's interesting. I guess, yeah, there's some way of connecting just like somehow foundational teachings on mindfulness and metaphysics of reality, which is this, everything is a dream or everything is a game, and right. And how that connects to just this very pragmatic person of question of how do I enjoy my work more, right? Which then also connects to the notion of, okay, well, like what is dreaming, right? And um, does work somehow relate to manifesting a dream or to serving a dream? Uh, and I feel like those are sorts of the threads that I've noticed. And to me, it's very much kind of, that's why I like this work on how do we turn work into meditation? How do we make it pleasurable and playful? Because, once you start tugging on that question, all of that like metaphysics of meditation comes out very naturally, right? So it seems like a very kind of nice mindfulness practice that, um, by just focusing on that specific transformation and that specific learning, uh, you can really get at these big questions of, okay, like, what is work? How do I relate to work? Why do I need to do, like, do I need to do the work I'm doing? Do I enjoy doing the work I'm doing? Um, yeah, yeah. So how do you relate to work?
Yeah, so I play in my work. I'm very playful in my work, and I've been sort of fortunate to have been able to maintain a sort of freelance, do what I like for the last 15 years. I'm also in a transition phase, and I also realized the limits of some of the choices that I made, and also,
Mm.
because I feel so the challenge, for example, to be a freelance over time, I feel, is that and actually, as a creative person, I need structure
Uh-huh.
to not to be constant, so the structures and working with structure, and so I'm right now I'm finding it myself actually in a kind of a moving towards more structure, um,
Uh-huh.
but not yeah, but a structure that allows play, and but maybe it's about play itself, so it's a structure, um, like a game, like games
Yeah.
structures that
Arena.
are yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and it's an arena that, okay, like, I gave you this question, but I'll try to answer to it. This arena that I would really like to see, it has mountains on one side, and it has forests, and it has the ocean, and it has a river, and it's
Mm.
an arena. It's an arena where nature is looking at us, you
Mm.
know,
Uh-huh.
and we're
Yeah.
we're sort of that dancers almost
Uh-huh.
of awareness of the earth itself, becoming aware, and
Yeah.
and we fully embrace that. That's my dream, that we fully embrace that
Yeah.
arena where
Yeah.
we are both the protagonist again of the story, but
Mhm.
we're the protagonist of beauty and care, not of kind of, you know because
Mm.
we can be the protagonist of war. Right now we are the
Yeah.
protagonist of war, and we can also
Uh-huh.
be the protagonist of play, of beauty, of dance.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Yeah, right. There's this like work that connects, work that disconnects, and there's something about like work as a connection to nature, to the earth. Um, and also like almost trying to summarize our conversation in a sentence. Be like, can I bring all these pieces? So like work as structured play within a dream, right? So in the context of a dream, we play in a certain arena within certain sets of rules or structures, right? And that is what makes work, or that is what work could be in principle. Um, yeah, yeah. And I still think there's something about not committing too hard to the structure and to the rules and to the arena. Like the core thing that makes work stressful and, tension versus playful and opening is how seriously do I take the rules that I make for myself and structure. Like being a freelancer, right? There's a certain sense in which you have to be okay with sometimes having clients, sometimes not, that like, and therefore not being super committed to having a very regular kind of paycheck, right? So there's a certain way in which even the structure of money you have to kind of take a little less seriously in order to have that freedom to be a freelancer, which allows you to choose your own projects and to play, right? So it's like the more we can let go of these concrete structures. And yet, as you said, structures are kind of necessary in order to get somewhere. So there's like using, can we use the structures to achieve our dreams rather than our dreams and our structures using us, right? Which
Yeah,
goes back to almost like the difference between can I be a human versus being a function or a certain role in a machine in some sense, right?
yeah. I would maybe add that it's about how do I find my what's my responsibility uh,
Mm-hmm.
in the story we're living. somehow.
Mhm.
And I'm literally opening a window now to get more
Mhm.
light. So, sometimes I need to open the window to get more light. And, it's my window to open.
Mhm. Yeah.
Where did I self-regulate, or, in a, so more than self-regulate, like I've blocked my own freedom somehow. I say like, no, I can't do that. uh,
Yeah.
and kind of being the harshest kind of critics and oppressors or bosses ourselves,
Yeah.
and kind of bringing that in, whether we're freelance or whether we're working in university. And in a way, we always have something that is that and going through that aspect of choice and freedom that we have within whatever the structure that we're working with now. And
Mhm.
I would add dreaming structures that enable dreaming,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
and enable play. And you said
Yeah.
really interesting. I need to listen back to the recording to how you said it about work being the way, how it puts the dream and the play together.
Uh-huh. Interesting. Yeah, I guess enabling dreaming
Dreaming
structures that enable dreaming is sort of what you're doing, right? In terms of enabling dreams and stuff, right? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful.
beautiful.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
This
This
gives
gives
me
me
kind of
kind of
more.
more.
Yeah, this
This
gives
gives
me
me
kind
kind
of
of
more
more inspiration.
inspiration just about this whole project and this work of yeah turning work into meditation. Just because I don't know, every time I talk about it or like think about it in depth, I just see how rich that space is, which is kind of exciting. That it's it's almost like to get a lot of the right answers, you need to like find a good question, and the question itself might not matter, but it's a question that leads you to a lot of rich territory. And I feel like this question of more playful, more fun at more points. So I like that question.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Pablo. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I really feel this dream has a lot of energy. And we say in Dragon
Mm-hmm.
Dreaming, the first step is to share your dream,
Mm-hmm.
and doing it as often as possible.
Ah,
And with
oh, I
and
like that. Okay. Uh-huh.
also because, say that's also, most dreams are not being realized because we don't share them. We became so realistic
Mm-hmm.
that we think our dreams will happen without telling anyone.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Nice.
so sharing the dream, that's the first and the most maybe
Okay.
important step. And then there are other steps, but that's really the essential one.
I
And
like that. Yeah. Almost as like a conversation starter instead of, how are you doing? It's like, what's your dream? Right.
and I feel we need a lot of dreams. We need a lot of dreams because we have a lot of things to reinvent. Dreaming is
Mm-hmm.
a way to reinvent things. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that needs to be reinventing right now that is calling us to reinvent. Um,
Yes.
and it's almost, in order for us to survive, or survive is a strong word, but to adapt to this rapidly changing world, we really need to
Mm-hmm.
go back to our dreaming muscles. It makes
Mm-hmm.
any sense. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Reimagine. And there were periods in history that humanity has reinvented itself, um,
Mm-hmm.
and we are in a time like that again,
Mm-hmm.
even more drastic maybe than many other times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. It's dream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would love, maybe we can go back to this conversation and also see if maybe in the future there could be some retreat that or some situation that can happen either here in Italy, or would love set up something.
Yeah.
I think there are spaces that are waiting for this sort of dream.
Yeah.
I told you that I met an artist that actually has a monastery now that is waiting
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
proposals
Yeah.
outside of Rome.
Beautiful.
But
Yeah.
I'm going to visit the monastery and send some photos. Maybe
Yeah.
we can dream that place as well. And yeah, even that
No,
place
yeah,
on
definitely.
Sunday was very kind of a small space, but quite interesting for a
Hmm.
small, kind of a tiny retreat, it seems.
Definitely, yeah. Love to do something like that. Yeah, we have the two coming up now, end of July, at INTP. I don't know if maybe you can share a link here or something.
Send me the link and I'll put it down once the live is over. I can add links and
Yeah,
stuff. Um,
that'd be cool.
yeah,
Also, yeah, I have a blog post with some like theory about how I understand of how to turn work into meditation. And then we might do a little retreat in Colorado later. And then, yeah, for next summer, I definitely like to kind of plan a little more in advance, like these sorts of things. So maybe have almost like a schedule for the summer of different retreats in different places, different countries to do on this. Because yeah, there's a lot to and getting more people involved in this, I think could really like generate a lot more ideas, a lot more directions for
for
how
how
this
this
sort of
sort of
dream
dream
could
could
evolve.
evolve.
Right.
Yeah, let's dream it.
Cool.
Let's dream it. And thank you everyone for listening.
Hmm.
Also, please connect with Pavel about the retreats and about the dream. And again, if you have
Hmm.
dream cafes idea that you'd like to discuss, I'm open to schedule one as well. And yeah, um, great having you here.
Cool. Yeah, thanks everyone. Bye. Mhm.
Bye.